Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Futures webinar series. I'm Ahmed, and I'm education team member in the BH Futures Foundation. Tonight, it's my pleasure to host our guest, Professor Vladimir Terzija. Vladimir is a full professor and the head of Laboratory of Modern Energy Systems at Skoltech, Russia. Today's theme of webinar is smart grid-supported situational awareness and the control of future power systems. At this point, I would like to thank Professor for joining us tonight. We are honored to have you here, and thank you for supporting Bosnian youth.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for your very kind introduction and also for your invitation, which made me very happy indeed. The reasons why I'm very happy will be understood when I say a few words about myself, about my origin. But I could see that there is a nice number of attendees of this seminar, of this invited lecture. And this will be particularly my pleasure to share my personal experience, life experience, which I'm bringing with myself, both from academia, but also from industry. The topic which I'll address today is smart grid supported situational awareness and control of future power systems. In other words, I'll be talking about some of monitoring and control applications applicable to electrical power systems. And this is the content of my presentation prepared for today. I'll talk about myself, about industrial revolutions, about electricity generation and generation mix, some statistics worldwide, then talk about future energy systems, smart technologies and data science, and also I'll tackle the topic of the role of research to societies we are living in. Well, I was born in a small place called Donji Baraci, which is near Mrkonjić Grad, where I also used to live. 3 years spent in Donji Baraci, 3 in Mrkonjić Grad. As you see, it's not very far away, but it is still 2.5 hours because we have some mountains around. And you know, Nikola Tesla is born not very far away, a little bit the western area. So I said that I moved to Belgrade when I was 6-7 years old and started my primary education in Belgrade. So that today I'm really very happy to have a feeling that I'm in Sarajevo, the city which I really love, the city in which I was in 1990, when I met also one of professors from Sarajevo who has invited me to move to United States. But at that very moment, I had invitation and already agreed 1 year stay in Germany as a Deutsche Akademischer Austauschdienst. It is German academical exchange, which I wanted to, which I have already accepted, so that I turned down this opportunity to move to United States. And it looks that this was the determining moment so that I stayed in Europe. And I'm here. I'm very happy to be here. And I hope that on the next occasion, I'll be also in front of you, that you'll be in front of me, that we will have a face-to-face meeting where we could experience exchange our knowledge and experience. Well, I got all degrees, academic degrees at the University of Electrical Engineering in Belgrade, Dipl-Ing, Master, Ph.D. degree. Then as a Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst, German academic exchange, I spent 1 year at the Technical University of Kaiserslautern, where I had quite an interesting research. At that time, I was M.Sc student in Belgrade and worked on phenomena like, for example, electrical arc. It's a very exciting phenomenon. After that, I stayed in Belgrade, worked in Belgrade. I got my M.Sc and Ph.D. degree, and then as a Humboldt Fellow, I started my stay at the University of Saarbrücken in Germany from 2000. And after that year, I decided to leave academia. Bravely, I moved to industry with 2 left hands. I mean, with less experience with industrial work, and spent 6 years in ABB in Ratingen, Germany, which is a small, nice, beautiful city near Düsseldorf, Germany. And then I have decided to return back to academia, to the University of Manchester, where I used to be a chair professor for 15 years. And now I'm in Moscow, in Skoltech, and I'm working here as a full professor. And I have a nice, interesting team of researchers. So that things which I'd like to mention about myself, I'm editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Electrical Power and Energy Systems. This is a very traditional journal. More than 40 years is the history of this journal. This is not a couple of years ago established and created new journal. At the time when I was a student, I called this journal the yellow one, because the dominant yellow color. This is a new look, which I, with a bit, it was a hard decision to me to forget the old nice fully yellow color. Well, it's now still the yellow one for me. And one of my very first papers was published exactly in this journal. And look at the destiny. I'm now editor-in-chief of this journal, which has impact factor 5.6, what is very high in our research area. I also work in a number of IEEE working groups and task forces, and I'm very active in SIGRE working groups. It is an international organization for large networks, power networks, and located in Paris. And I'm convener, the leader of one working group addressing issues of the impact of renewable energy sources or converter interfaced generation to frequency-based protection functions in the grid. Further activities worldwide, I'm distinguished professor at Shandong University in Jinan, China, when I'm leading a nice team of 5 full professors, 4 assistant professors, a number of Ph.D. and M.Sc students. Equally, I'm invited to lecture at Tsinghua University, Beijing, China. It's equivalent to Harvard of China or MIT of China. I'm also a visiting professor at the University of Belgrade in Serbia, and Otto Monstedt guest professor at DTU, Danish Technical University in Copenhagen, Denmark. I'm working with a number of USA universities. My profile in Google is here, but also I'm a hobby pianist, so that you can, if you like, visit my channel. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm recording that what I like to listen when I'm in a queue, when I'm somewhere where I cannot do something more sensible than to listen that what I play. But not only me, this is a link in which I'm playing together with my former PhD student from China, and her name is Yi Chen, and she's playing on a traditional Chinese instrument, which is called pipa. In general, I have been combining music and science quite extensively. My PhD degree was on frequency measurement. Frequency is determined with the height of a tone. My research on arc, electrical arc, is strongly related to harmonics, which I could somehow touch through music. Let me talk now very briefly about the Industrial Revolution. It will be a quick review. The first Industrial Revolution started in 1765, and it is related to steam machine, steam engine. But steam engine without massive extraction of coal wouldn't be invention which could be useful. A coal had a concentrated energy, so that by combining coal and steam engine, we could have something sensible like a train. I was privileged to see those locomotives, those trains in Manchester in a museum of science and technology. And that was quite exciting. The second Industrial Revolution, 1870, we can link it to new sources of energy, electricity, gas, oil, methods of communication. In this context, all of us can proudly say that Nikola Tesla, the big inventor who is coming from the area from which a number of us are coming, but independent of that, Nikola Tesla belongs to the whole world as a inventor who determined this construction of electrical power system, which is a part of critical infrastructure and which is probably the highest achievement of mankind ever. Exceptionally complex system. And Tesla once said, I don't care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own. And I believe that lots of you are young people. And I'll strongly encourage all of you, because you are in your age, you are those who can create invention. Don't expect inventions from those who are already very, very experienced. You are those who are capable to come to new ideas, new inventions, and we more experienced, in other words, older, we can support you, and that's our duty. The third industrial revolution, I'll link it to nuclear energy, 1969, but also to the rise of electronics, telecommunications, and computers, and biotechnology, but also programmable logical controllers, which helped to development of robots. And today, also, when worked in ABB is a company particularly famous for robots, which are used in industry. I mean, in general terms, automation industry. And the fourth industrial revolution, which we also call Industry 4.0, it is a revolution happening right now. And we are experiencing it every day, and its magnitude is not yet known. So you are those who are significantly contributing to this. And it started with internet. I remember, like yesterday, it was in 90s, I think it was 1993, at the University of Belgrade, the invited speaker, Dejan Milicic, who is now working for Hewlett-Packard in Stanford, who is one of the leading scientists there, who was the president of IEEE Computer Society. Now, I like to talk to him. It's very inspiring, but very tough. When he has his opinion, then if you want to challenge his opinion, you must have really strong reason to do that. Well, he gave a lecture about World Wide Web. So, well, it started in the 90s. So that we have today ongoing automation of traditional manufacturing, industrial practices, and we are using modern smart technologies. And we have a number of aspects. I'll just mention a couple of keywords like Internet of Things, what is supporting increased automation, improved communication, and self-monitoring, and production of machines which can analyze and diagnose issues without the need for human intervention. So it's autonomous systems. And a very important aspect is cloud computing, cognitive computing, and artificial intelligence. I just finished the meeting with my researchers who are particularly very good at machine learning algorithms, and we discussed how to utilize machine learning approaches for understanding how load, how demand is behaving in electrical power system. Equally, different types of smart sensors, but also communication technology are significantly contributing to Industry 4.0, fifth generation, but also expected sixth, seventh generation of communication infrastructure. A little bit about statistics. Electricity generation, look at the level of changes worldwide, particularly in China, in which we have lots of industry. United States, not too much, but look at these units. 8,000 terawatt hour. Terawatt hour is 1,000 billion watt hours. So we are talking about units which are really very high. Statistics obtained from our world in data. When it comes to share of primary energy, you know, primary energy is the energy which is then used and converted into different types of energies through, for example, mechanical work, we finally, through rotation of generator, convert mechanical into electrical energy. There is a conversion of energy from one type to another one. And for this purpose, in electrical power systems, in power plants, we use, for example, coal. You can see that the percentage of usage of coal is dropping. We're going to see how things will happen in future. In terms of gas, you can see a significant rise in China, but also Germany, United Kingdom, Russia as well. When it comes to primary energy originating from low carbon sources, let me point out that when we talk about low carbon sources, we talk about nuclear and renewable sources. We have a significant increase of low carbon sources. It is also a part of green agenda and net zero targets, which are linked to some agreements related to 2050 and something like that. From the perspective of purely renewable sources, which are hydropower, solar, wind, geothermal, bioenergy, wave, and TDL energy, it's obvious that in Denmark, one of world leading countries, we had a massive increase of primary energy. What means 35% of generators are coming from renewable sources. The rest is from those who are not renewable and can be nuclear, and those which are coal or hydro, which are coal or gas. Again, in China, we have also massive changes. Interestingly, in China, there is one of the biggest, but I believe the biggest in the world, onshore wind farm with installed capacity of 8 gigawatts, what is really, really very high. For example, Gjerdap has a little bit more than 1 gigawatt. So you can imagine Gjerdap, it is a hydropower plant on Danube between Serbia and Romania. 8 Gjerdaps, okay, let's say 7 Gjerdaps, incredible. Now, some other statistics. Look at China. I want to point out the importance of coal. Look how much coal is used in China. And then also hydro. And then we have also some wind. If we move to other countries, in Russia, coal, gas, nuclear, and also hydro, no renewables, or these are renewables, but with a small percentage. In Germany, we can see that the contribution of renewable energy sources has been significantly improved over the last 20 years. And still, nuclear dropped. And it looks that in Germany, they'll probably return back to nuclear power again because of complexities of different nature. In United Kingdom, interestingly, coal is not used. And now United Kingdom is naturally proposing green agenda, CO2 neutrality. But these are also reasons some sides, they say, but cumulatively over the last 150 years, you have particularly contributing to CO2 emission. These are messages sometimes coming from China. United States, coal is declining, but gas is increasing. Nuclear is always there. Hydro as well, and wind, and some other renewable sources. Let's look at one typical day in Britain, but it was one evening, late evening, I used the National Grid live data. At that very moment, fossil fuel contribution was 21%. Other energy means actually nuclear, 18%. Then renewable, 48.6%, or with hydro, all in total, more than 50% of renewable energy. It's a fantastic achievement. The circumstances are as such. You cannot expect something like that in a massive Russia or China. However, in both countries, you can expect in future increased number of renewable energy sources used as a primary energy. About future energy systems. Well, that's what I have already discussed, but I will just now describe that through this slide. Traditionally, we used classical generation with, for example, coal power plants, nuclear or gas-driven. Today, we have a number of wind farms, solar panels, also electrical vehicles, and something what is a game-changing technology, it is a storage technology. The issue with renewable energy sources is their intermittent nature, causing a different way, different sources of different types of uncertainties. We don't like uncertainties because uncertainties can bring us to complexity of reliable and secure operation of electrical power system. It could bring us to cascading events, what I'll discuss later, or even blackouts. That's why storage technology can compensate this intermittency caused by wind farms or solar. And equally, vehicles, electrical vehicles, they can bring also some challenges to the grid, but also opportunities, because they can be also considered as a massive storage. Solar power, just description about its availability in United States, information from National Renewable Energy Laboratory from 2018, or from the same source, information about annual average wind speed 100 meters above surface level of North America. You can see that there is a huge capacity, particularly in this part of the continent. One important technology which I really want to mention today is sustainable hydrogen. And today we talk about blue hydrogen, green hydrogen. Blue hydrogen, which is related to natural gas and stream reforming. On the other hand, we talk about the green hydrogen, which has to do with electrolysis and renewable electricity. And this is a graph in which a sustainable hydrogen scheme is presented. Source is given there, is coming from, I think, United States. A very interesting moment are plug-in electric passenger cars. And the global annual sales of these cars in the period of 2011 and 2021 has been significantly increased. And the question is, if we have so many cars, or in future even more, I read somewhere that by 2030, only electrical cars in Europe will be sold. So that this number will be significantly increased. The question is how to ensure that the mechanism of their charging will be stable. To do that, all charging stations should be supplied by energy, so that probably, but not probably, definitely will need more copper, more cables, more transmission lines to provide energy to charging stations from which we will be charging these cars. Or the approach would be that we, in a centralized way, charge batteries so that cars just come and take their battery and leave their old battery. And so then maybe the question would be, there should be a standardization of batteries used in Ferrari, in Fiat, or in Renault, or Dacia, if you like it. So that we consequently move towards smart city components. Everything is smart. Manufacturing, government, Wi-Fi, digital citizens, data, health, farming, agriculture, buildings, energy utilities, transportation. And we are integrating everything that together And there is lots of opportunities for using Internet of Things approaches and fast communication infrastructure based on 5G communication infrastructure. This is something what is related to smart cities, in which, as a part of one of project activities, it's a source EPRI, this slide, the discussion was development of flexible platform for big data processing, because from so many sources, there will be so many elements, so many components, so many sensors, sending data and enabling communication between different elements of this complex smart city just discussed. For processing of all these big data, we go to tera, peta, eta level of data. The usage of supercomputing facilities would be a must. Asset management focused on wind farms and demand would be also equally important. However, also testing of complex solutions based on smart technology, complex smart grid solutions would require very serious testing facilities, including hardware in the loop facilities like real-time digital simulators. I already mentioned cloud computing and Internet of Things. One of issues from the perspective of electrical power system when it comes to high penetration of converter interface generation, like wind farms, there is type 3 and type 4. Both of them have power electronics-based components, particularly type 4, what means wind farm is fully connected over inverter to the grid. This non-synchronous connection is causing consequences to the system dynamics. Reduction of system inertia or kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is a result of rotation of all rotors, of all generators synchronously operating. And the system likes to have a huge kinetic energy because changes on demand in the context of active power changes and causing imbalance between generation and demand. They are directly impacting electrical power system frequency. If the frequency is non-nominal, if it is out of the range plus minus 0.5 hertz, the system could go into instabilities and into cascading events leading to blackouts. This must be, this requires new ways of controlling power system frequency. From the perspective of reduced fault level, what means reduced short circuit current in the grid as a result of integration of converter interface generation, we might have problems with the voltage stability. In other words, we talk about weak grids, grids with lots of inverter connected generation. Also, every solar panel must be connected to the grid over inverter, storage as well, electrical storage. So that we have to find new ways for operating a system with lots of renewable energy sources. On the top of everything, we experience increased harmonic distortions because we have power electronics-based components, what is also one of processes which has to be seriously considered. Regarding cascading events, from theory perspective, electrical power system must operate according to some security criteria. One of these criteria is n minus x. For example, n-1. N-1 means that given outage of a single element in the system, for example, generator or transformer or transmission line or cable, the system will still be operating in a secure manner. Security is strictly defined in the grid from the perspective of generation, transmission, or consumption. That's another topic. We can also have n-2, what means two elements. If they experience outage, the system will be still secure. However, we experience traditionally some events like sudden disconnection of a generator or sudden disconnection of a transmission line, and that can cause slowly a steady state progression of outages in the grid. One transmission line is overloaded and disconnected because of thermal protection of transmission lines, but everything is going very slow, 3 hours, 4, 5 hours, but still the system is degrading its security level. What can happen? Low probability event, a triggering event can happen. What can cause fast progression of outages in the grid? Cascading events, disconnection of one line, another line, one generator, load. And this happened in Italy, for example, in the famous blackout in 2003, when the whole Italy in one very hot summer day was in a full blackout. So it's so-called high-speed cascade, which can last 10 minutes. After that, the system has to be restored, and it is the process of power system restoration where we have to return back to, again, normal state of the system operation. We also experience very severe weather conditions and weather events which could cause blackouts. One of these recent blackouts was in Texas in February 2021. For this purpose, we need to develop mechanisms to make sure that the system, now we are talking about electrical power system, will be operating in a secure way. However, one of the trends is to integrate different energy systems like electricity, gas, heat, or transportation, or hydrogen into a single network. And these are coupling components, for example, heat pumps, which are coupling electricity and heat network, or gas stations, combined cycle gas turbines, which are connecting gas network and electricity network, so that we move towards multi-energy or integrated energy systems, which as such can offer a higher level of flexibility of the operation of the grid. It can also offer us opportunities for increased utilization of renewable energy sources. I'm aware about timing, and I will now see what is my next slide. Well, I will now jump to a slide which is coming after a couple of things which I was supposed to mention. I wanted to talk about digital substation, in which signals coming from primary plant are converted very quickly to digital form and transfer over fiber optics communication channels to higher levels, to relay room, control room, and the central room where we are controlling the entire electrical power system. I also wanted to talk about satellite time synchronized technology, what is affecting sensors, where we use GPS, GLONASS, Baidu, or Galileo system. However, I do not have enough time to do that. And then I'll jump to one of slides which is showing how a physical process, in this case a wind farm, can be represented through a digital twin, in which we have full model of this primary physical process, in this case wind farm, nicely modeled. Then we receive data from this wind farm and update the model and follow that what is happening in the field. Furthermore, we store data, we process data and bring decisions based on stored historical data and approaches which could be also based on artificial intelligence and machine learning approaches, so that we increase our situational awareness or monitoring of the entire physical process. In this case, it is a wind farm, but it could be also the whole electrical power system of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also the whole system of UCTE, so that we can also move forward or towards control measures and bring control decisions from the perspective of frequency control or voltage control. We could also move towards protection-based functions, for example, to save integrity of the electrical power system. Research, I will just say, research is very important. We need to have next generation of top students which are capable to understand different disciplines, for example, IT and mechanical engineering plus chemistry. My son started this year to study at the Technical University of Munich engineering science. In my impression, everything and nothing. However, he's still doing a couple of interesting things, chemistry, nuclear, mechanical, electrical, mathematics, of course. Anyway, I work in Skoltech Center of Energy Science and Technology. We have particularly experts for storage technology. We have also experts which are focused on integration of storage technology, what means power electronics experts, and those who are more focused on electrical power system, on energy markets and regulation, and integrated energy system infrastructure, and naturally smart grids. In conclusion, smart technology is enabler of the transition to sustainable low carbon economies, and economical and rational usage of electrical energy must be adopted by industry and society as one of key priorities. And I want to express my thanks for your attention, attending the lecture, which I'm really very proud because it's for my fellows from Sarajevo and maybe from other places. So thank you very much. If you have any question, I would be very happy to answer. The question can be about my career. The question can be about my suggestion, how to approach to research, or how to submit a successful paper, which could be published. But you can also ask me about music if you like. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Professor. While we're waiting for our attendees to ask questions in Q&A, my first question would be, what future do you see in terms of renewables and green energy in Bosnia and in Balkans in general?
It is a question which is relevant, which is very important, particularly today, when we are experiencing lots of problems with energy, when we understand that energy is very important. And I would like to point out that energy and electricity, when it comes to electricity, it was very cheap some 20, 30, 40 years ago. If we look at prices which we pay for food, food is much, much more expensive. And we are also experiencing significant increase of bills which we are paying for electricity. My bill in Britain, I'm also linked to Britain, is doubled. Well, that's the reality. For us, when I say us, for Bosnia, for this area, I think that rivers are important. However, starting from the experience of Serbia, in which I'm using just information received from my colleague, Professor Boban Vukosovic, member of Serbian Academy of Science and my good friend. He said that these were mistakes done when it comes to strategic development of coal power station Kolubara B. And the fact that this power station hasn't been built is causing import now of electrical energy at very high prices. In Bosnia, I must admit that I'm not well informed about capabilities of wind. I don't have this information. I want to just say we should be a bit careful when it comes to integration of renewable energy sources. We should really know what are pros and cons. I'm not a very conservative engineer. On contrary, I'm very happy and would be very happy to explore opportunities to see how much we can have from wind farms in Bosnia. Do we have enough wind? And what will happen after 10, 15 years after using a wind farm? What to do with blades which are non-recyclable? So I'm just making the case of being wise when bringing these decisions. So I'm not against, but when it comes to capabilities of integration of renewable energy sources in Bosnia, then it should be linked to investments which should be paid back. When it comes to this discussion, we also discuss, is energy coming from renewable energy sources more or less expensive than from classical sources? Information from Britain is that renewable energy is cheaper than classical. But you could see no coal in Britain in this generation mix and more than 50% wind. If you ask Russian engineers, no, this is not the case. Renewable energy is more expensive. They have lots of gas. Russian case is very different. At the same time, when it comes to CO2 neutralization, they have massive forests. Russia is 50 times larger than Germany. Massive forests, which are contributing to this CO2 neutralization. They have also huge rivers, Yenisei, Ob, and so on. And these rivers, massive hydropower plants can be built. However, please note that energy coming from this type of plants, like hydropower plants, is also expensive because of a need for a lake, for normal operation of hydropower plants. I talked a lot, but I didn't give a very precise answer. I'll just say, when it comes to Bosnia, firstly, we should see what is the level of primary energy, what are capabilities, and in this context, the storage energy is equally important. But at the same time, if I think that by 2030 there will not be on the market, you will be only capable to buy an electrical vehicle. Then talk about the importance of storage, electrical storage, which will be very important for normal operation of a system with renewable energy sources. So that would be my answer, which was not very strictly. I didn't answer very precisely because I don't know very precisely the situation in Bosnia.
Thank you for your answer, Professor. Our next question is, do you have any book recommendations for power engineering?
I have, of course. But it will not be a book which I'm right now writing because it's a specialized book for modern power system protection. Yes, these are wonderful books, and I would be very happy to share some titles to you. It depends to which level. Probably some basic books, which are, for example, from one of the authors is Stevenson. Recently, we have some new books which are also addressing some aspects like power system dynamics, for example, Prabha Kundur. These are books related to power system optimization, optimal operation, and also a book about novel technologies, wide area monitoring, protection, control. It's from Arun Fatke. But I'd be happy, for example, to provide this information using a separate channel as just information for those who are interested.
Thank you so much, Professor. In our next conversations, we can talk about book preferences and what you can recommend for us. Our next question would be, what are some of the advices for young engineers entering the industry of power engineering and electrical engineering in general?
These are different characters of us. Some people like routine and routinely done job. This is also very nice. Some people like more vibrant work, often challenges. And in this context, some people like industry, some people like academia. And those who stayed in academia, it doesn't mean that they are better or less capable. It's just something what has to do with our nature. And in this context, I would always recommend that you try to work that what you like. Then the outcomes will be the very best, the very best. When it comes to industry, my experience was such that when I entered ABB Color EMAG medium voltage company manufacturing medium voltage switchgear, it is like trafo station, which we call it trafo station. A medium voltage switchgear. I learned a lot from ordinary technicians, from those who really stay on a daily basis and test how medium voltage switchgear is operating. And I learned a lot from them. At the same time, I had opportunity to work as an applied engineer, what means I was not the one who had to create, I was not the one who was involved in research. I was linked to research because I could identify some problems when designing operation of a switchgear. I was working on switchgear control unit. What means I had to design software so that medium voltage switchgear of different complexity is operating properly. And these were a number of aspects which had to be understood. I had earlier today a conversation with one of my PhD students. He likes startups. He likes to create his own company. He likes to have a product or a series of products. However, he's still young and he has capabilities. He's very good at artificial intelligence, but he doesn't know where to apply his knowledge. And then I said to him that he cannot know everything right now, but he should be brave and to talk to those from industry to try to understand what the problem is and to try to solve these practical problems. So we should try to understand what is the problem. And each process is not ideal. However, these are a number of processes in electrical power systems which could be further improved. I already said, more and more power electronics connected generation, and consequently problems with frequency regulation, problems with voltage stability. When it comes to frequency regulation, there is a need for monitoring power system inertia or the level of kinetic energy. For this purpose, it could be possible to develop an approach which is receiving data from the grid and based on machine learning approach to estimate system inertia. And with this information, we can directly go to improve frequency control or under frequency load shedding, which is used for disconnection of load if the frequency is declining. So I talked about those who would like to work in private companies. However, when it comes to industry, we should understand the physical process. This is important. It's also important to be capable to enjoy in a teamwork, to respect others. I already said to love the job, and to be proactive. You know, at the university, look, now it's 9 o'clock in the evening, it's Friday. People in industry, they left their companies at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're at their homes, they're watching football or listening classical music or just doing nothing, playing with their children. And I'm now enjoying in that what I'm doing. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, 12:50 Moscow time, I'm giving a lecture in a keynote speech in a conference in Paris. I couldn't go on my own. It was a bit, you know, too much to travel. But people in industry, yes, they have their timing, they have Monday, they have Friday, but again, they should love their job. And these are many, many opportunities, particularly for those who are at IT side, also different types of manufacturing, different types of systems. In our case, in Boston, you have electrical power system in which you can find lots of companies, lots of work. And also small to medium companies could be established to solve some problems which could come from western part of Europe. You know, why not? And you can then have quite a prosperous and nice career.
Thank you, Professor. Our next question is kind of continuation to this one. It says, do you think that a professor needs to work in industry for some time to have enough relevant knowledge to teach new young engineers?
Firstly, thank you very much to Nihad and to Rasim. Now again to Nihad. For me, my experience in industry was so important to be capable of leading large-scale research projects, also jointly with industrial partners. Very often, people from academia, they think that they are the best in the world. They are the most cleverest people, and that those people working in industry, yes, you know, they are doing something what is at a much more lower level. And this is not true. And every work should be respected. In this context, my move to ABB was a very brave decision. And I have just realized that I have no clue what's going on. And my problem at the very beginning was to understand how everything works, because switchgear or substation, it's like a car, it's like a submarine. So you have so many components, elements, and you have to control all these elements using secondary technology, intelligent electronic devices. And to get the full picture, I needed time. But when you learn in academia, at university, you have a nice textbook, you start from addition, multiplication, division, and then you can go to the market to buy some food. But in industry, no, it's not everything in front of you. Learning by doing, and it requires lots of skills, capabilities. And so that I developed many skills in industry, which I can compare with my personal experience when I was a musician. I used to play with bands. You know, there is a band group. We go to Croatia, also in Bosnia once, in Tuzla. We played for one New Year party in a hotel in which we had wonderful guests. And you know, you start playing with people and you never play this song. So how to know what are the chords? I played keyboard. But the problem is when you never heard this song in your life. He said, and then you have to, pick up quickly to think, and you must be very quick learner in real time to do properly your job. Interestingly, in industry is very similar. For example, I was sent to resolve one problem with IT problem with supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA system, which was combined by ABB and Siemens. ABB has one communication protocol, which is called SPA-BUS, and Siemens Profibus, SPA-BUS and Profibus. And they didn't talk to each other. And now who is guilty? I talked to our research department. They gave me some explanation. They said, why are you talking to us now? Why are you calling us? I had also to cope with my own people to convince them that I really need help, with nice smiling face in front of people from Siemens. We resolved the problem. We were at the wind farm. It was, I remember, evening, very windy, and blades of wind farm around and sound from wind farm. Unforgettable experience. It's like I also played on several weddings. It's equivalent to wedding, and many guests requesting for different types of songs. I like particularly Bosnian Sevdalinka music. Sevdalinka is Bosanska is something very special, but of course, I played also exceptionally modern music. Modern at the time when I did it, it was in 80s. Quite interesting. Well, a modern professor with some experience in industry is much more mature engineer, much more mature professor, capable of collaborating on serious, high-impact research projects, contributing to the quality of society and making a positive impact to the society. So very important experience from industry. But it is not a must. You have those who maybe get experience through collaboration with industry, or just simple, maybe are very naturally talented, or just do not work that much with industrial partners. And then they have many problems with the head of school, with the dean, because dean likes good projects, well-paid projects.
Thank you, Professor. Our next question is, what do you think about small modular nuclear reactors?
My opinion is very positive, and when it comes to nuclear technology, well, I'd like to point out a little bit skip. So yes, very important technology, nuclear and small, yes. But one of the interesting technologies is a technology which is based on utilizing the existing waste. So you have uranium, you get some energy, and this is waste. This waste can be further used in different types of reactors. And we can receive maybe factor 10 times more energy from this waste. I'm aware that in Russia there is a huge development, and when I said that to some of my colleagues from Europe, they said, oh yes, there is also something what is ongoing in France. And in this context, this is a technology which, in my personal opinion, will play a very important role. In this context, then is the question, but why then so many wind farms around us? Well, there is still a business case for renewable energy sources, and as you can see in Britain, you have more than 50% of renewables in generation mix at 10:30 in the night in Britain. That would be my answer.
Thank you, Professor. Our next question is, can you explain problematic part with the DCAC inverters and generators powered electrical systems, and what is the solution?
The problem is, if you have a large number of synchronously operating generators, they are connected through electromagnetic coupling. And you can imagine that you have one rotor of synchronous generator, another, and more, many of them, 20, for example. All of them with moment of inertia, their own moment of inertia, rotating of 50 hertz, contribute to a massive kinetic energy. And if we experience outage somewhere in the system, for example, a sudden unexpected disconnection of a generator, the frequency will not be changed so much. So that we have analysis, for example, in Britain, it is called the most credible event is outage and disconnection of 1.32 gigawatt generator. It's not a single generator, it's two generators operating in parallel. And this is the most credible event. And for the most credible event, the frequency would still be within statutory limits, which are 50 plus minus 0.5. In this case, the frequency will still be above 49.5 hertz. So no operation of under-frequency load shedding, which is disconnected load and so on. In the case in which, can you imagine now, instead of 20 generators, you have 10 generators which are operating in such synchronous manner. But the kinetic energy is now halved, 50%. And the rest of generation is connected over inverters. So inverters as such, they are decoupling any rotation and rotating masses from the bulk power system, from the power system. Or in the case of storage, or in the case of solar, you have no rotation. You have just AC, you have just DC-AC converter. So that the problem is with reduced system inertia when for the equivalent outage of a generator, instead of having a rate of frequency change, which is 0.1 hertz over second, we have now 0.5 or even 1 hertz over second. In the case of 0.1 hertz over second, we have 10 seconds or 15 or even more to cope with the problem. And for this is responsible primary frequency regulation. Excuse me. It is a primary frequency regulation, which measures frequency, and if frequency is dropping, then more active power is pushed from generators. And we are creating balance between demand and the generation. Frequency is returning back to 50 hertz by actions of secondary generation, secondary regulation, bringing frequency exactly to 50 hertz back. In the case of reduced system inertia, for the same event, we have 2 seconds. So we're gonna breach statutory limit and go beyond 0.5 hertz, 49.5 hertz, and we might then disconnect load. And for this, utility must pay penalties. To cope with this problem, also as a result of a big project, it was more than 10 million euros project, 9.2 million pounds, in which I was the principal investigator on behalf of academia. It's called Enhanced Frequency Control Capabilities. We worked on development of a concept of synthetic inertia, in which these rotating masses on inverter-connected generators are used so that for a very short period, we push, let me say it in this way, more active power than it should be under normal steady state from these inverter connected generators. So at the same time, what means we sacrifice kinetic energy into active power for a given time, because energy is power times time. And at the same time, the frequency of this renewable energy on wind farm is dropping slightly. So we cannot push this mechanism of synthetic inertia for 5 minutes. Maybe it depends now, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And then we stop this action and frequency is slowly returning back. But at the same time, this generator is consuming power a little bit from the grid. But in the meantime, these lazy generators pushed more active power and we are balancing everything. For this enhanced control frequency capabilities, who can be involved? Wind farms, solar batteries, demand, combined cycle gas turbines, if they are existing in the grid, but also HVDC interconnector. In Britain, there is interconnector to France, to Belgium, to Holland, and there will be to Norway. We do not have HVDC in Bosnia, so that's not one of the ways. So that is the way, what means that using, that's quite interesting. Once in one of meetings, I said, well, the problem with systems with high penetration of renewables is caused by wind farms. And then we solve the problem by using wind farms. And then instead of punishing these wind farms, they get money for this extra service in which they help the system through synthetic inertia. When I said that, I said, no, Vladimir, don't talk about that. How can you talk about that? So that was very interesting. Very interesting. That would be my answer to your inspiring question, which is part of lots of research worldwide.
Thank you so much for this beautiful answer, Professor. Our last question for tonight is about hydrogen, its application, its production, and is hydrogen the future energy source?
This is debatable, honestly. I can see that different types of energy sources is pushed by different companies. Each company has its own business agenda, expectations, and expected profit. And it looks that in some cases, the decision is brought by those who are having a good business case from the perspective of a profit. And when it comes to hydrogen, these are a number of technical problems. For example, I discussed and debated with colleagues from then not from Holland, because there was an opportunity for collaborative work between Skoltech and Dutch utilities. And when I talked to my colleagues from from Holland, they said, if we'd like to have that much energy coming from hydrogen and using ocean in which we have enough water, then we should have, I don't want to say million, but thousands of square meters of facilities in the ocean. So it's not feasible. When it comes to smaller energies, that's fine. But when it comes to gigawatt hours, that's a different business case. I'm not exclusive, I'm very inclusive, and hydrogen is not on the top of my own research agenda at the moment. You can look at, for example, recently started research project in Britain in which Cardiff University and Newcastle universities are involved. You can see that this hydrogen-based technology is very seriously explore it. And the reality will show that I would always support research on this topic. Recently, I supported through my personal advices colleagues from University of Warwick, from England, from Britain, in the context how hydrogen produced energy can support ancillary services in electrical power systems. What means frequency and voltage regulation. That would be my answer to this question. Thank you very much for such interesting questions.
Thank you, Professor. We're done with the Q&A session. At this point of time, I would like to thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope that for the attendees, this was very interesting and that they learned a lot about this theme.
Yes, my pleasure. So I don't know if you have opportunities to make a joint photograph with the participants, that I'd be very happy to receive this photograph or the list or anything, any screenshot, if it would be manageable. But if not, then maybe I'll come on my own and visit Sarajevo and enjoy some good cevapčići, proper Sarajevski cevap, and these good things which I'm still missing. I mean, also sweets which I'm trying to avoid, particularly this is tufahia. Yes, that's also something that I like very much. But all things from beautiful Bosnia and Herzegovina.
I don't believe that Zoom, when I make the meeting, it was in webinar form, so attendees can't use their cameras, but we hope that you will be joining us in Bosnia, and we can make like chit chat or meeting with you. It can be in Banja Luka, Sarajevo, Mostar, given what suits best for you. We can talk about that later on.
Yes, I can only accept such a warm invitation, and I am planning to go to visit Banja Luka, Mrkonjić Grad, and also Donji Baraci, the place where I was born. There will be opportunities, and I would like to express my thanks for your attention. And this is Friday, and I think that, and I hope that you got some new ideas, some new knowledge, hopefully particularly inspiration for your own work in classes in which you are going. So thank you very much for this opportunity to to meet you, and we stay in touch. Feel free to contact me through my contacts. I'll be very happy and pleased to respond to you. And that's from my side. My thanks. Thank you.